All right, welcome to this explainer, where we are going to unpack the incredible, non-stop biological metropolis running inside your chest right this very second. You know, every single cell in your body needs constant deliveries of oxygen and nutrients, plus a totally reliable trash pickup service for waste. So how exactly does your body handle this massive logistical nightmare? Well, it builds a remarkably dynamic, self-sustaining transport system. Here's our quick roadmap for today. We're going to cover the delivery fluids, blood groups and clotting, the anatomy of the heart, the cardiac cycle, mapping double circulation, and finally we'll wrap up with circulatory system disorders. Let's get right into it.
Section 1. The delivery fluids.
Now, your blood actually isn't just one uniform red liquid. It's essentially a two-part mixture. If you were to spin a vial of blood in a centrifuge, it separates perfectly into two distinct sections. 55% of it is a straw-colored, viscous fluid matrix called plasma. This plasma is mostly water, but it's absolutely packed with crucial proteins. Things like fibrinogens for clotting, globulins for immune defense, and albumins for osmotic balance. The remaining 45%, those are the solid, formed elements just suspended right there within that fluid. And the numbers here are frankly staggering. A healthy adult has an average of 5 to 5.5 million erythrocytes, or red blood cells, in just a single cubic millimeter of blood. They are completely devoid of a nucleus, which is pretty wild, but it's just to make more room for hemoglobin, the iron-containing protein that gives blood its red color and transports those vital respiratory gases to your tissues. They work tirelessly for about 120 days before retiring to the spleen, which basically acts as the official graveyard for old red blood cells.
Section 2. Blood groups and clotting.
Okay, so your blood group is determined by the presence, or absence, of two surface antigens on your red blood cells, named A and B. Think of these as little chemical ID tags. Your plasma also contains natural antibodies designed to attack any foreign tags. This is exactly why Group O, which has no antigens, is the universal donor. It can be given to anyone without triggering an attack. On the flip side, Group AB has zero antibodies in its plasma, which makes those lucky individuals universal recipients.
But ABO isn't the whole story. We also have the Rh factor to consider, named after the rhesus monkeys where it was first discovered. Now this becomes critically important during pregnancy. If an Rh-negative mother carries an Rh-positive fetus, her body might actually start producing antibodies against the baby's blood if they mix during delivery. In subsequent pregnancies, those antibodies can cross the placenta and destroy the new fetus's red blood cells, causing a severe and potentially fatal condition called erythroblastosis fetalis. Fortunately, modern medicine can prevent this entirely by giving the mothers specific anti-Rh antibodies right after that first delivery.
So what happens when this closed system springs a leak? You obviously don't just bleed out from a caper cut, right? An injury triggers a rapid linked chemical cascade. The trauma stimulates platelets to release factors that form an enzyme complex called thrombokinase. This acts a lot like a biological switch, converting inactive prothrombin in your plasma into active thrombin. Thrombin then takes inactive fibrinogen and turns it into a web of fibrin threads. This tiny mesh traps dead and damaged cells, creating a clot that completely seals the leak.
Section 3. Anatomy of the heart.
Evolution has seriously upgraded this engine over millions of years. Fishes, for example, operate on a fairly simple two-chambered pump, where deoxygenated blood is pumped to the gills and then directly out to the body. Mammals, however, require way more energy and oxygen. That's exactly why we boast a robust four-chambered heart. By having two separate atria and two separate ventricles, our heart prevents oxygen-rich and oxygen-poor blood from ever mixing.
Your heart is roughly the size of a clenched fist, tucked safely in your thoracic cavity, right between your lungs, and it's protected by a double-walled fluid bag called the pericardium. It actually relies on a brilliant series of one-way valves to keep traffic moving smoothly. The tricuspid and bicuspid valves separate the upper and lower chambers, while the semilunar valves guard the exits to the major arteries. These muscular flaps ensure blood only ever flows forward, slamming shut the moment the heart squeezes to prevent any backward flow.
Section 4. The cardiac cycle. Here's a wild fact. Your heart doesn't even wait for your brain to tell it to beat. It acts entirely on its own. The sinoatrial node, or SAN, located in the right upper corner of your right atrium, is your body's natural pacemaker. It continuously fires off electrical action potentials about 70 to 75 times every single minute that sweep across the heart muscle, initiating that rhythmic, life-giving contraction. Seriously, go ahead and quickly feel your own pulse right now on your wrist or neck to feel that very electrical signal in action.
Every 0.8 seconds, a complete heartbeat occurs, pumping out roughly 70 milliliters of blood from each ventricle. We call that the stroke volume. And this brings us to a massive physiological metric known as cardiac output. It's really just simple math with profound implications. You multiply the stroke volume by your heart rate to find out exactly how much fluid your heart is moving.
And that adds up to a staggering 5,000 milliliters. That is 5 full liters of blood surging through your body every single minute. Just think about that for a second. Your entire blood volume cycles through your heart in the time it takes you to watch 1 minute of this explainer. And for an athlete under heavy exertion, that number can multiply several times over to meet the body's explosive demand for oxygen.
When you see a hospital monitor on TV, with that famous rhythmic beep, it's actually mapping the exact timeline of these internal electrical signals. The standard ECG trace is just brilliant in its clarity. The P wave sparks the atria, the massive spike of the QRS complex contracts the ventricles, and the T wave resets and relaxes the muscles. Any deviation from this exact rapid-fire shape gives doctors an immediate window into potential heart abnormalities.
Section 5. Mapping double circulation. As mammals, we operate on a strict double circulation system. We run 2 distinct loops simultaneously. The pulmonary path is kind of like the recharger. The right ventricle pumps oxygen-depleted blood to the lungs to pick up fresh oxygen, then returns it to the left atrium. Meanwhile, the systemic path is the delivery driver. The incredibly muscular left ventricle blasts that fresh, oxygen-rich blood out through the aorta to the rest of your body's bustling metropolis. It drops off nutrients and picks up carbon dioxide before returning to the right atrium to start the whole loop over again.
Section 6. Circulatory system disorders.
Because this system runs under constant pressure, it requires serious maintenance. Consistent high pressure registering above 140/90 causes hypertension, which severely stresses your vital organs over time. If your vessel highways get clogged up by deposits of fat, calcium, and cholesterol, you develop coronary artery disease. This narrowing of the pipes deprives the heart muscle of oxygen, which can trigger an acute chest pain called angina, or eventually lead to complete heart failure, where the pump is simply too weak to meet the body's needs.
We've explored the sheer mechanical brilliance of your delivery system today, from the specialized cells floating in your plasma to the dual-loop highways right down to the auto-exciting electrical node that keeps the whole thing running. It really is a masterpiece of biological engineering. Which leaves us with one vital question to ponder about our own health and habits. Knowing that your heart beats over 100,000 times a day, completely on autopilot, what will you do today to take care of the engine that takes care of you? Think about it and keep learning.